Damien with us, happy to say. Hey, how you doing?
Hey Joe, how are you?
Mexico 2, England 3. It was kind of the occasion everybody was justifiably excited by.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. I set my alarm last night, got up, saw the 1 hour delay, and went straight back to sleep. I didn't have it in me, and I just saw extra time and possibly penalties, and I said no, I don't have 2 a.m. to because I'm in Spain at the moment, so 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I just didn't have it in me. So I got up this morning early and I watched it in peace and quiet. And I didn't, first thing I did when I got up this morning is just swiped all my devices, so I didn't know the score. I wanted to watch it as pure as I could.
Yeah, it was great stuff. It was great stuff. I mean, did the best team win as the starting point?
Absolutely, without question. I thought England were absolutely superb. To say they dug it out of the dirt was an understatement. I mean, they got on their hands and knees and they scraped with their fingernails to get that result over the line. They deserve a huge amount of credit. I think it was last time I was on with Joe, we were talking about France, and I kind of referenced that they're possibly not going to have it all their own way in this tournament. Someone's going to put it up to them. Someone's going to ask them questions. You don't win, what is it, 8 games to win the World Cup final. You don't breeze through all 8 games getting it your own way. Someone is going to ask questions of France in the same way that Mexico asked questions of England last night. And boy, did England come up with the answers. I thought they were absolutely superb to a man.
It was interesting on the BBC commentary anyway. Alan Shearer said he'd never experienced an atmosphere like it.
Mm,
It didn't come through
mm.
on the TV to that extent. It did seem extraordinary, but it's, noise is hard to judge and microphones and they distort and, you need to be there to know. But I thought when Shearer said that, that was mental.
Yeah, I mean, when you got to look at all the ingredients that went into last night. Host nation, Azteca Stadium, altitude, 38 games without defeat. We saw the scenes post most Mexico games where there was, I think I'm overestimating when I say millions in the street. They had the weight of a nation. They had the force of a nation behind them, and to go into that stadium and to dig out the performance that they did was absolutely incredible. And that is just born out of pure perseverance, pure stubbornness, and pure uh, love for each other as players. Midway through that second half, a thought popped into my mind of an interview I saw with Stephen Gerrard. It might have been a number of years ago. I'm not sure what it was. We sat down with Rio Ferdinand, and he was saying that he didn't enjoy England duty. He enjoyed the training, but then went straight back to his hotel room. And he said that in the last couple of years, Stephen Gerrard said, "I've got to know you, Rio Ferdinand, more than what I did when we were England duty." And that is probably why that England team wasn't successful, because they never developed that relationship with each other. And that England generation of Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard was just built on pure ego. Guys who just didn't want to get to know each other. Because when you think about it, Joe, to get to know somebody, right, you have to open up, you have to show vulnerability, you have to maybe say to the person you're getting to know, I'm not this superstar, indomitable human that you may think I am when I'm playing for Liverpool or my club, and I don't think any of those players will ever willing to show any vulnerability. But I think this England team, have absolutely opened up to each other. They have gotten to know each other because the amount of work they put in for each other. You only do that if you truly care for the person that you're playing with. You only do that if you truly believe that the guy next to you wants to win the World Cup as much as you. Not for your own ego, not for your own highlights reel, not for your own kind of status. It is just pure team spirit. And that is how that is built. And I think that England team deserve a huge amount of credit. And the reason I tipped them to win it, and I understand possibly in Ireland there might be still a lot of people say, "Oh, geez, no, not England. I couldn't bear it." But there's a likability to this England team. They all play for teams that we support every week. We watch them every week. But I think there's an egoless team. They have really opened up to each other. And that performance, that type of team spirit is only born out of the fact these guys truly care for each other. And I think the manager and the players deserve a huge amount of credit for that.
Yeah, well, even the relationship between Kane and Bellingham seems much improved, just on body language on the pitch versus previous tournaments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the two of them were incredible. There were so many incidents in that game, especially in the first half, where Bellingham would have made a run, ball got given away, turned over, and it was Kane sprints from the edge of the Mexican D back into the number 10 position. That is the type of team spirit that I'm talking about, that willingness to run for each other. I'm going to run 50 yards and help you out, pal, because you've made a run that perhaps you maybe shouldn't have made. Ball's turned over, we look vulnerable, and I'm going to help you out. And that's how teams are formed, is when you get a group of players that are willing to make up for the mistakes of somebody else. Because in that game last night, players made mistakes, but every time someone made a mistake, somebody just instinctively, not consciously, just ran. And I'm going to help you out, because when I make a mistake, you're going to help me out. And that is how teams are formed. And that's why this England team, I think, have got a great chance, because the operative word there is team.
Yeah.
They're an absolute team. And they were brilliant.
Well,
Really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it.
well, to take the Kane Bellingham thing then one step further, it's exemplified in both goals, really. I mean, I'm conscious lots of people listening went to bed, didn't get up at work today, and see, just saw maybe the highlights. So, like, for the first 20 minutes, I mean, it's all Mexico. There's far more fluency and rhythm in the Mexican play. They're dominating possession. England are taking no chances at the back in possession. It's a we're going to try and just weather this initial storm kind of approach. And then when they do score those 2 goals in 2 minutes, I mean, really, they're against the general flow of play. But Rooney did analysis on the BBC where if you watch, so Rice drives, gets a throw out from Pickford and drives on and gives it to Saka, who puts in a great cross. But from kind of halfway line territory, Kane and Bellingham are running side by side. And they do, and I know it's standard centre forward play, it's not revolutionary, but it's just two guys in sync. They do a lovely little crisscross where Kane goes back post and then darts near post, and Bellingham does the opposite and darts back post and gets on the end of it. So, two guys working together. And then, I mean, an even better example, everybody thought Kane was going to shoot second goal, and he puts it across, and there's Bellingham. So, I mean, those two in tandem, they're England's best shot. We've known that for a long time, but they are in tandem.
Yeah, I think that midfield trio, the running power of that midfield trio, even that opening 30 minutes you referenced there, the work that Rice, Anderson, and Bellingham put in. I mean, it was considering all the build up was altitude and difficulty, and the work rate that they put in. And if you look at where Rice picks that ball up 10 yards outside his own box and just drives, I mean, that's as powerful of players I've seen running with the ball. And then you look from the high behind the Mexican goal, and you can see what you're referencing there. The Kane and Bellingham, they have a look at each other. Kane pulls away and he realizes, and then he darts across that near post. That's a selfless run.
Yeah.
He really runs across that near post because he knows the fullback hasn't got back round. If I clear that space and that ball comes in, even if it comes along the deck or whatever, it gives my mate the best chance of scoring. Because someone like Harry Kane could quite easily say, I'm going to go to the penalty spot and I'm going to stay middle of goal because that's where all goals are scored. But he sprints full length of the pitch and then clears that space. And unfortunately for Saka, then he gets to the end line, stands up a beautiful cross. And it was a beautiful goal. But the running power of that midfield trio is incredible. I've never seen it. I'm not saying I've never seen anything like it before, but they are so powerful, so physical, and so dominant in that middle of the park. They're going to take a lot of beating.
Yeah. And then Gordon won the third goal, the penalty. He was brighter, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was good. He was very good in fairness to him. He was much more direct, got on the ball. It was set up from what you said earlier about it was kind of a counter-attacking type of performance from England, that the Mexicans were dominating the ball and England were quite happy to drop into a mid-block and they were happy to give up the wide areas. And like I said, anytime that ball, you watch it, like imagine if you drew on a GA pitch, the 40-meter arc from the corner of the England penalty box to the corner of the other. Anytime the ball came in there, oh my God, the England midfield players went to work. They just went hunting, ratting, won the ball back, and then all of a sudden there was space because the Mexican fullbacks were advanced. They were joining in because they had such solid possession. And then when they turned it over, England just went to town with that running power that I just said about earlier. But it was an incredible performance, incredible team performance, and the manager Thomas Tuchel must be so proud, and he deserves a lot of credit too.
Yeah, so he obviously had decisions to make when Kwanzaa gets the red. That's on 54 minutes. So I mean, I think there were 11 minutes of added time. So you're talking 45 minutes with just 10 men. And they get the penalty very shortly after that, so that kind of sets the terms of engagement. And he just decided, sod this, 5-3-1, here we go, bunker down for, a good 30, 40 minutes. We're bunkering in. I remember thinking, God, this is so early to be going 5-3-1 and Dan Burns on and launch him in, bring it on. But it worked out just about.
Yeah. I said Tuchel deserves a lot of credit. I got butterflies in my stomach. When the red card happened, he went into the dugout and there was a shot of him and Anthony Barry with a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And I always say to you that top managers get paid the top money because under whatever type of pressure the players are under, could you imagine the pressure that the manager is under there, the decisions he has to make? Do I get John Stones on, put Konza to right back? Do I get Jed Spence on? I don't want to upset my two centre backs. They seem to be in a good rhythm at the moment. But he made that decision to shunt Cons over to right back, get John Stones on the pitch, and take Saka off, and kind of go 4-1 almost, or kind of 4-3-1-1. And he got it right, and then the penalty came, sorry, right on the perfect moment, just to give the team that shot in the arm that they needed. And again, intense pressure. He knew what was coming. He said, fine, we're going to drop into a flat back five, and we're going to give up the wide areas, and we're going to invite crosses, and we're just going to white knuckle this essentially. And I trust that my three centre backs, Stones, Gahey, and Dan Burn, are going to stand up to the test. And I understand that. I'll check it later, but see the amount of stats of crosses that came in the last 25, 35 with injury time thrown in. It must have been 15 to 20 crosses came in, and England were just, it was brilliant. I love that. That was like that. I got excited watching that because I was thinking, like, this is a tin hat job. Let's just drop in, head, kick, clear. There was a clearance that Mark Gahey made on 85 minutes. I think Dan Burn pushed Jimenez into him, and it was right round the back of him. And it was right in that area between Pickford and Gahey, and he was under the most immense pressure. He was half falling, and he stuck his left foot out, and he managed to wrap his foot around it and get the cross back to where it came from. And I just sat up and I thought, I love that. It was just a real back to the wall job. But again, made that decision, made it early. And I love the way he paces every time the camera cut to him. If you're a player on the pitch, that guy had his war face on, didn't he? And anytime a player looks over and sees their manager up and down pacing, he's as involved in the game as much as what the players are. He has a real steel to him. And I think the players feed off of that. I always said to you before that, teams tend to take on the personalities of the managers. And I think he's a competitive, argumentative, tough type. And he doesn't stand for a lot of the shit that goes on.
Yeah.
And I think his team showed that last night in the last 25 minutes.
Yeah, well, there was a moment in the first half where Nico O'Reilly and Anthony Gordon just got their wires crossed with a throw-in, and it cuts to Tuchel, and he's just screaming again and again, it's the second time! It's the second time! And Nico's doing the whole, I'm going to pretend I can't hear him kind of, routine. Just, but I guess that's steel, steel begets steel, and you alluded to it at the top of the show. They're in the trenches to win this match. What a bonding experience for that team. And then Oasis kick up, and that's a real, they're looking around each other, and performances don't matter anymore, style points don't matter anymore. It's like, we are stubborn.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. When you give up yourself to the team, and I thought Jude Bellingham probably exemplified that more than anyone, because there was a number of times in the game where he got the ball in tight spots with three Mexicans around him, and some of his footwork to get out of it and drive away and then accelerate and just take him 20 yards up the pitch. I mean, like, he was incredible. It was the best game I think I've seen Jude Bellingham play, full stop. I mean, he was just incredible, and he gave himself up to the team. Like you said, there was no phone to my agent afterwards. How did I do? Can you put an Instagram reel up for me? Can you get, because agents have social media teams, can you get this out there for me of this great bit of skill that I did? There was none of that. It was like, you don't need to put anything up. The whole game is a highlight reel for your character and for everything that you're about. And every one of them were superb.
Norway, not Brazil. Wait for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And not surprisingly, to be honest with you, that Brazil team was poor. Really poor.
Can I give you credit? We shared a little WhatsApp group, and 5 minutes in, you said Norway, and you were ridiculed by several members of the group. We won't mention. But straight away, you didn't like the look of this Brazil team.
Yeah, similar to the Germany. You look at it, and obviously, Brazil teams carry a weight of reputation before them. That yellow jersey walks onto the pitch and you think, oh my God, that's Brazil. But then you actually look at the team and you've got 34-year-old Danilo right back. You got 32-year-old Douglas Santos at left back. You got 35-year-old Casemiro in midfield. You got 34-year-old Neymar coming on. Now, I don't mean to denigrate any players because they're all very, very good players, but Rayan, Bournemouth, Cunha, Manchester United, and okay, Vinny is an exceptional player. But like, it wouldn't, jump off the page and go, oh my God, we're going to have to bang at it today. You know what I mean? Norway just realised if we just stay at this, and all they had was counter-attacking. When Norway gave the ball away, get it to Vinny. And they were a moments team, ball gets given away and they wait for a moment. And I think a lot of Ancelotti's teams are, I don't want to, this is not a criticism of Ancelotti, he's an incredible manager, but a lot of his teams are based on moments. But he's a team full of superstars that are able to create those moments. The Benzema's, Ronaldo's, the Vinny's, all the teams that he's had have been incredible. Kaká's at AC Milan. that they just don't have those players anymore for that. The
They were
recovery
they
pace,
had a few dangerous moments though. I mean, it wasn't
yeah,
like completely smooth sailing, but I do take your point.
yeah, no, I agree. And when you have absolute superstars, they convert those moments. But unfortunately, I don't think Brazil have those ruthless elite characters that they had before, where they would just need one or two moments and they take them. But every time the ball turned over, I thought that the recovery pace of the Brazil team was absolutely terrible. The amount of times Norway streaked away and then they got to the end line, and you don't see any yellow jerseys coming back into the left hand side of your screen, and there's huge spaces at the edge of their box. So I think Norway, listen, Norway aren't a superb team, and I fully expect England to dispense with them in a I'm going to stick my neck out here in a relatively handy manner. It won't be an easy game by any stretch, but I think England will dispose of them and get into that semi-final. But the first half was really, really interesting. The way Norway set up, and I thought their manager deserved an awful lot of credit as well for what he did at halftime. Because I was watching that game, and you had Berg and Berga as the two sixes, and then you had Odegaard as supposedly a 10. But then you had the two wide players, high and wide on the touchline, Soroth and Nusa, and they had a lot of possession, Berga, and Odegaard. And if you look every time Odegaard got the ball, he came out of that space where Casemiro was, and they had an awful lot of possession on the periphery of that Brazil team. They never really got at them. And every time the ball went to Soroth, he was isolated. Unfortunately, he's not a tricky winger that can retain possession. And a lot of their passes were square and backwards, and I thought that suited Brazil. And credit to the manager. I mean, Nusa was very, very good, but I mean, he's so hit and miss, and
Yeah.
he's, does something great, but then obviously does something very, very silly, and the ball turns over, and gave Brazil exactly what they wanted, which was counter-attacking moments. But he changed at half-time, changed two wingers, and Odegaard became more of a 10. And all of a sudden, now you start getting in those spaces where Casemiro is. And I was watching Casemiro last night, and I know Jimmy Carragher gets an awful lot of stick for that comment he made a couple of years ago of leave the football before the football leaves you. And I think he was spot on. I think Casemiro's finish has been finished for a long time. He did well for Manchester United at the back end of the year, but if you look at Manchester United's schedule from Christmas onwards, they were playing probably on average a game every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They were out of both cups, and there was nothing. So that suits a 35-year-old player. I looked at Brazil's schedule. They've played 5 games in 20 days. So that's a game every 4 days, essentially. That's too much for someone like him. And I think he ran out of steam. He got ghosted past several times, and you just can't win any football match when you've got players that haven't got that mobility in the middle of the park.
No,
When you
like
look at the
Morocco, he was taken off half time. Japan, and look, he was fairly exposed. But the Japanese goal, I mean, they kind of
yeah,
did a big wide arc around him. He just couldn't turn, couldn't get back. So it's kind of been
yeah,
coming maybe. But then
yeah, absolutely. And
do you like? But Ancelotti borderline kind of went 4-4-2 at times. Like was it Vinny Junior? He knows we just won't track back, and he sort of left Cunha up. He sort of went two in midfield at times. I don't know if that's doing Casemiro a
yeah.
favour either.
I don't know if he's kind of he has a view of Casemiro that might be slightly skewed because of his obviously his affinity to him from time at Real Madrid, but they did not play well last night, and I think they were always up against it. They were hoping on one of those moments, going in, getting their noses in front, maybe getting 2-0 up, and as it happens, it was Erling Haaland with his two moments of absolute
Oh yeah,
brilliance. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the two finishes were brilliant. His movement for Gabriel just to pull on the blind side of him and then dart across the front of him. Very, very difficult as a defender to do anything about that. I think Gabriel did as much as he possibly could, but when the ball is perfect and the movement is perfect and they marry up beautifully, it's a goal. But that Brazil team is poor. I mean, you look at Brazil, a country of 180 million people where their national sport is football. For that team to be put out is kind of an indictment of Brazilian football at the moment, that they can't seem to find anyone else other than Neymar coming on the pitch. Geez, man, I felt sorry for him.
yeah.
He came on, I was like, yeah, he didn't look like he was running naturally at all. Didn't look like he had any bounce to him. And even when he scored the penalty, I mean, talk about England, selfless, team before self. He scores that penalty, and the first thing he does is wants to give it to the goalkeeper. And you're 97 minutes into a game, you've just scored, and your only thought is to blow kisses to the crowd and walk up to a goalkeeper and give him verbals. I mean, who cares about the goalkeeper? Who cares what he said to you? Who cares what he did? Get the bloody ball, get it back in the centre circle, and let's go. We might only have one or two attacks here. And that's what I'm talking about, that selfish element, that he prioritised his own need of giving verbals to a goalkeeper as opposed to, I know it's only a small thing, but I think it's an indication
Yeah, yeah.
of his mentality, yeah, it's just a poor Brazil team. I'm not sure where they go from here. I don't know about their underage structures, but they're very, very far cry from the world-class teams that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it's amazing. There was a moment about 20, 25 minutes in where Odegaard has the ball, loads of space, and Haaland just runs up and just touches the ball two or three times and turns around and runs back, almost as if to say, I just want to touch the ball just for a second. The patience of Haaland to just hover up
Yeah,
there and be so uninvolved in the game.
yeah.
It's really impressive, like the lack of anxiety about the guy. And to be fair, he's a fair bank of good experiences to call upon to keep his confidence buoyed. But he was so peripheral for so much of it, and then ends up with 2 goals. There was almost disdain in his second shot.
Listen, I was watching the game last night and I thought to myself, imagine trying to explain Erling Haaland to an American that's never watched Erling Haaland before. You're sitting there and only 30 minutes, you keep explaining to your American friend that this guy is the best finisher in the world. And they're like going, what's he doing? He's just ambling around. He doesn't do anything. Like, and then you go, no, trust me. Like he's a finisher. He does nothing else. And they're like, oh, okay, I don't really see it. And then he does that, and your American friend just kind of casually nods, saying, "Oh, okay, no, I get it." And you're
Yeah.
saying that's what he is. And like you said, it's that discipline. And I suppose every now and again he does want to have a touch of the ball to feel like he's involved with it. But I just felt that the way they were set up with the three stretch the full width of the pitch, Soroth right on the touchline on one side, Noose on the other side, Haaland in the middle with two centre backs, the two sixes, Berg and Berga, and then Odegaard on the outside of it. Brazil were pretty well set if you're in that 4-4-2 type formation you're showing. You need to get into the spaces, you need to pass forward, you need to move that unit around.
Yeah.
And I think the manager clocked that at half time and made the required changes and got at Brazil in the second half.
So like they're a good physical side as well, Norway. I mean, there was that moment where Cunha tried to run at Wolf in the penalty box and he just leaned into
Oh,
him. It was a really kind of striking moment. England threw the ringer a bit last night. You're watching, Kane, the running you mentioned that he's putting in. They'll play Saturday, 10 o'clock Irish time. Lovely for an Irish audience. Saturday's enough time for England to go away and rest. That's
yeah,
a
yeah.
nice gap, isn't it? They'll be fine physically.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think emotionally they might be drained because you can't underestimate the toll emotionally that a game like that takes on you. That you might be just a little bit fatigued emotionally going into that game. But, they know what they're involved in. They understand there's a World Cup semi-final place at play here. I think that Norway team is good. But I think the running power, the physicality, the directness. You look at that England top end of the pitch with whichever wide players he decides to go with, even if it is Maduaki or if it's Rashford, possibly he could swap those guys out. But I think the direct running of that England team against those, I like Ryerson as a fullback. I think he's pretty good. But I think that England will just apply enough pressure. The two centre backs will be got at in a way that maybe Brazil didn't get at them with sustained pressure. I think England will be able to ring that box and pin that Norwegian team in. Obviously, a lot will be dependent on Erling Haaland, but I presume Mark Gahey and Ezra Konza, having played against him week in, week out, should be up to that task. But I just expect England to have a different type of performance, more on the ball and just probing. And I fully expect Harry Kane to get a goal or two against that Norwegian centre back pairing.
Well, then if it all goes to form, they'll play Argentina in a semi-final, who kind of, I mean, Cape Verde, it was just sensational. Because I guess you sit down and you think, God, like, this is the kind of reality check that's coming, and then when they score that equalizer to go 2-2, I mean, the ball in the air, like what a shot! It's in the air for a
Yeah.
long time. Uh, People are saying, and not just Irish people who are kind of into the Pico Lopez story, or even Cape Verdeans, but I mean, I saw like Barney Ronay, for instance, saying this goes down as like an all time kind of World Cup occasion. It was just amazing. I know you caught the game.
Yeah, like as soon as the first goal goes in, and what a goal the first goal was. I mean, just that ball hit, I think it was Lissandro Martinez
Yeah,
on the back of the centre back. And there are moments showing life as a defender where you just turn around and shrug your shoulders and go, not much I can do about that. That run from Messi and the ball over the top, and then the first touch just outside of his left foot to keep it on his left side and then toe poke it over the goalkeeper was just incredible. And then once that went in, you fully expected Argentina to get hold of that game. But similar to England, the team spirit, the belief, the desire that Cape Verde team has, just to keep going, to keep plugging away, and to get themselves back in the game. They're an absolute credit to themselves, and it just shows what can be achieved. With team spirit, with players that are playing above the station that they normally would play at.
mm.
Players are able to get more out of themselves for a World Cup. None more so demonstrated than Pico Lopez, who looked fully at home in both the Spain game and the Argentina game, in all the games, but particularly those two, because They're obviously the two best teams, or two of the three best teams in the world, and he looked more than comfortable in that environment, and he can be very, very proud of
Yeah,
himself.
no, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it was such a good ball. And then it's the most like messy touch, isn't it? Just how
Mm,
delicate it is under pressure and how calm it is. So I guess a final thought: Morocco breezed through against Canada 3-0. They will play France on
mm,
Thursday, 9 o'clock Irish time. This is must watch. This is
yeah.
must watch. I mean,
Oh, yes.
yeah. I mean, you make
Yeah.
France favourites, but like this Moroccan team,
Yeah. I think this Moroccan team will ask questions of this French side. I think they're good enough to get at those centre backs. They're good enough to get at Kone and Rabiot in midfield. They're good enough to dominate possession and ask France, are you good enough to play without possession for long periods? Are you good enough that when we have a 15-minute period of sustained pressure and we get you pinned in, have you got the minerals to deal with that? Is your goalkeeper going to come up big and make the saves that are required? And then can you wrestle back the momentum of the game and then start applying yourself to go and win this game? England were asked all those questions last night and they came up with the answers. I think they were asked them again as well against DR Congo. And I think you and me kind of laughed that, England didn't play very well, but they still dug that result out. This England team is better than what they've probably shown, but they've shown heart and spirit. I think France have pretty much had it all their own way. I don't think anyone's really got under their skin or really, thrown them out of their rhythm. And I think this Morocco team are ripe for surprise. I would not be surprised at all if Morocco turned France over,
right?
because if you ask questions of them, you're going to get a look at their soul. And I think Morocco will get a look at their soul. Now, if France open up and answer those questions, then I'm all in on France for sure. But you will not go 8 games in this World Cup where everything goes your way. You're going to have to, as we said earlier, dig it out of the dirt. And I'm looking forward to seeing whether
Yeah,
France can do that or not. I'm not saying they can't,
yeah, yeah.
but it'll be interesting to see.
No, for sure. That's 9 o'clock Thursday. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. Let's check in next week. Sit back, enjoy it, and we'll talk next week at some stage.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks so much.